Well, for more on the potential threat to Jewish communities here in the United States, let's bring in Rabbi Yoni Fine, head of the school at Browser Maimonides Academy, and Evan Bernstein from the Community Security Service. Gentlemen, welcome to you both on this tough day. And Rabbi Fine, I'd like to ask you, what are your concerns for your community in the aftermath of the attacks on Israel and for the wider Jewish community across the country? I mean, these are attacks carried out with the greatest level of evil and horror. We have seen attacks in this country perpetrated by essentially right-wingers, racists, and anti-Semites. Are you concerned that this might touch something off here? What are your feelings now?
Thank you, Terry. Yes, for sure. I know, we've always been very concerned for a while now as Jewish organizations, certainly Jewish day schools, with the rise of anti-Semitism here in America and abroad. Certainly, we've heightened a lot of our security measures over the years, and now we're on higher alert out of fear of that. I also know that this terrorist attack, this heinous attacks in Israel, has impacted us here locally. We did a lot of assemblies today. This was our first day back in school with our children, who range from 2 years old, to 14 years old, from the holiday break, and we asked the question of how many of you have family in Israel, and almost 90% of the room raised their hands that they have family in Israel. We have 20 families that were there during the holiday that were sheltered in bomb shelters, and we even have families that have cousins who are hostages. And so certainly there's a lot of mourning, a lot of healing and therapy that we're doing here. There's also securities, I would say, on the cyber level as well. Social media is extremely impactful, and there's a lot of disturbing graphic images. I think the coverage that we were just hearing about the threats that Hamas is making to add to the terror of showing digital images and videos of these hostages, terrorism, the injured that we're hearing about, these numbers, they're much larger than that, because the sociological, social emotional, psychological impact that happens with terrorism is far-reaching. And so we're trying to guide our children to stay off social media and helping parents with their concerns for the safety of their children. You never want your child at bedtime saying, is it possible that I get kidnapped in my bed at 3 a.m? That's something my 5th grade daughter asked me last night when she was past her bedtime. So we're definitely taking it very seriously and are on high alert here.
And Rabbi, tell us what you're doing in particular to up the security at your school. And are you concerned about supporters of Hamas retaliating, or is this more just the racists that exists, the anti-Jewish sentiment among these extremist groups that we've always been concerned about here? The FBI talks about it as the #1 threat. So is it both? Is it just one? And how exactly are you providing more security?
Yes, Kira. So it's all the above. I would say, we focus more on what we can control. We focus on our processes. I won't go into specific detail, but our school in particular, we have an incredible security detail. We also have great partnerships with the local, the state, and the federal enforcement and agencies. We get great intel and help. We've been very fortunate that now, especially since these attacks, we've gone on a high alert. So we do have additional detail and help from local enforcement to help us out to stay safe. And certainly in our synagogues as well, there's a really thorough and robust operations that we have for security. I think we don't necessarily focus too much on the specifics of where, because unfortunately, since I've been born, there's been a real threat to the Jewish community everywhere all over the world, and racism that we deal with all the time. And so this definitely heightens it. So I would say we're concerned with all of the above, and certainly what could happen, with the rise of misinformation and propaganda, and what we're seeing with all these protests. We need to be remaining vigilant and on high alert.
And Evan, your organization, the Community Security Service, you're providing volunteer security in Jewish communities, so you have experience here. How do you read this moment, the nature of the threat, and what Jewish communities, schools, synagogues, places of where people gather, how can they prepare? How bad is it?
I think it's as bad as I've seen. I think we've seen the normalization of anti-Semitism over the last 10 years, and there's always a ramp up of anti-Semitic activity when there's conflict between Israel and terrorist groups like Hamas or in Fatah. But I think what we're seeing now is something very different, as was just reported. and we're seeing now it's a real war and it's going to be a lengthy process. And I think as we're going to see more and more of this, there's going to be more and more threats to diaspora Jewish communities around the globe, and especially here in the United States. And we had meetings with our over 3,000 active volunteers around the country that do security at their synagogue just yesterday, putting people on high alert so they understand the threat level that is here. Thank God we haven't seen anything significant since the war started on Saturday, but we're readying ourselves. We have events taking place across the country where our volunteers are helping with local law enforcement and private security to secure those institutions and events that are taking place. And we are a force amplifier for that law enforcement on the ground on Shabbat, on the Sabbath, and working with private security. And we really want to empower our Jewish community at this time, because I think a lot of people are feeling kind of lost and not sure what to do with their feelings. They feel like they've never felt before with this kind of threat that's taken place in Israel, family members and friends being affected. And I think now is a moment where we need to really come together as a people and really be proud of our Judaism.
And Rabbi Fine, if I could ask, take a step back, put this terrible moment in context for us a little bit, if you could. The Jewish people have been targeted, for
centuries,
for violence for thousands of years. Somebody once said, if you want a proof of who the God's chosen people are, it's the people that have lasted through all of that. But be that as it may, I want to ask you, in the scope of the risks that Jews have faced, the violence that Jews have faced, how do you make sense of this moment, given that history? And what do people do about it in their hearts? Take a step forward into the days, knowing that this is happening to Jews around the world, and that you are at least preparing for the possibility that it could be visited at home as well.
For sure. Honestly, it's hard to find the words. I know I had to, stand in front of students of all ages today for assemblies and make sure that we help them process at an age-appropriate level. It's certainly challenging. I think the general message we've been sharing to our families and our students is, when you're facing darkness, you need to spread light. One small match, one small flame in a massive dark space can really light it up. We talk about making sure that when you're facing hate, you spread love. And so giving students, especially children, the focus of control, that we can focus on what we can do. And right now it's about trying to do as many acts of kindness as we can for those in Israel that are struggling. We're doing a lot of different drives and fundraisers for them. Our students today wrote letters to the soldiers and to the families of support. We are certainly involving ourselves with a lot of prayer and praying to God for safety and peace for the world. And we try our best to focus on the things that we can control and being light unto the nations. And that's what we're trying to continue to do. And at the same time, we're definitely providing individualized support for our families who are going through a really, really hard time right now. And in terms of the focus of what's to come, again, we focus on our security processes. And, thank God we are blessed with grateful partnerships with law enforcement agencies and doing our best to prepare. But we want our families to have normalcy and be able to go to school and have fun with their friends and have their birthday parties and not have to be fearful of being attacked because of their religious choices. And so we're hopeful that will help create a little more positivity and get them involved in good things and positive things. And we hope for a complete and really enduring peace to come soon.
And Evan, you've been on the ground talking about security, doing recon, putting together plans, strategies. Just give us more detail on what you've been doing since Saturday and the surprise attack that we saw overseas.
What was very hard on Saturday is one of our COO and other law enforcement was a mission of security mission that was taking place, and people got there on Friday, and then by Saturday the war took place, and we actually had staff that were caught in that, along with the other security leaders that were there in the mission. So the first priority was ensuring that they were going to be able to get out and be safe, and thank God they were able to do that, and they're now home. Also, then everything turned right to on the spot, making sure that our teams across the country were aware what was going on. So many of the synagogues we work with are Orthodox, but they have the ability to use radios and phones on Shabbat, and we're able to communicate with what's going on in the heightened alert. And I think that's something that's so important, was we were able to activate and make sure. And so many people, even at the synagogue where I was doing security over Saturday and Sunday, it was a holiday. People forget that Saturday was a Jewish holiday, Shemini Atzeret, Simchas Torah, and it was also Shabbat. And people came out in droves. We have multiple radios in our synagogue, and every radio was taken everybody kitted up, everybody wanted to participate, and we're seeing more and more of that. Since then, we want to get more people engaged. We want to get more synagogues involved in their own volunteer security. And I think this is a moment where people are, again, looking for something to do to push back on this hate. Even though they can't join the IDF and they can't be in Israel, they could do something here domestically. And we're trying right now to work with as many communities. We're already working with the new communities post Saturday, and continue to work and give the best training possible to our current volunteers to make sure that they're prepared for what I think will be, a difficult time with high alert ongoing, at least for the weeks ahead.
All right. Well, we wish you both the best in your efforts and in your prayers, right, from your lips to God's ear. Evan Bernstein, Rabbi Yoni Fine, thanks very much for joining us.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.